Hello and welcome back to Orbit Shift, a place where we talk about thoughts, behaviors, and actions for a next level of impact. I'm your host and coach and mentor, Sai Kumar Chandran. And today, the question that I want to raise is about the global crisis that we are living in. Is this global crisis a paradox, a manufactured reality, or a collapse of Dharma? And what should we be doing as individuals in this world? That's the thing that we want to speak about today. Now, the reason I raise this question is because the last 10 years have seen this world increasingly become a dramatic place. All sorts of upheavals have happened, from health crises to technology issues to businesses collapsing to consumer movements and to change of choices, demographics, livelihoods, countries popping up, countries getting destroyed, wars, political upheavals, you name it. We have seen more in the last 10 years than we possibly saw in the previous 30 years. And that pace is only increasing. 24 was possibly a peaceful period after the COVID crisis, but then 25, again, a set of upheavals. 26 hasn't been an easy year up until now, and it doesn't look like 27 and 28 are going to ease off. And what strategists have to say, people who are accustomed to Jyotish and other sciences, they all have to say that we are at a precipice of everything from political unrest to wars to climate issues to name it whatnot. What is this world that we are in today? And that's the reason why I asked this question, that is this world a paradox? Is it a manufactured reality? Or is it a collapse of Dharma? I would say it's all three of them. And I will share some of my thoughts on this, and I'm not going to elaborate too much because each one of you, from your higher intelligence, you know what is happening in this world, and you'll very easily be able to correlate to what I'm talking about. Number one, why is this world a paradox? If you look all around you, you will see five broad trends. Number one, there has been unprecedented progress in the last 15 to 20 years. If you take the 30-year period, then immense progress. Despite that unprecedented progress, there has been increasing amount of instability all over the world. That's the first trend that you will see. And that progress possibly was controlled by a few, happened in fewer areas as compared to others. However, every country, every community has been trying to get their fair share of this increase. Some have, some haven't. And as a result, where we are standing today, despite the unprecedented progress, despite the unprecedented wealth creation that has happened, instability has only increased. Activism has only increased. Political uprisings, social uprisings, cultural uprisings have only increased. Add to that the second pillar, hyperconnectivity. Everyone is connected, whether physically or electronically. Air travel, any other form of land travel, people driving around, all have become far easier. Travel on across oceans has become so much easier. People are today talking about traveling to other planets. Uh, let alone physical movement, e-connectivity has improved. Everything from mobile connectivity to Wi-Fi connectivity in most parts of the world are so much better than what it used to be about 15, 20 years back. Despite all of these things, we are more isolated, more deeply fragmented, more badly opinionated, and falling all over the place. So despite being hyper connected, we're deeply fragmented. The third pillar, all this economic growth that we have seen, I've already pointed out there's huge amount of widening inequality. As much as we hear of the first trillionaire on this planet and so many other billionaires and millionaires coming up, we just don't, the news of people dying of hunger and malnutrition and animals who are tortured to death, all of that keeps on increasing. So despite all the the human growth, the inequality and the suffering of the planet is unequivalent to anything that we have seen ever. There's also a lot of information abundance, like we have spoken about. But question is, where is the truth? It's becoming increasingly difficult to believe various versions of various things that are floating around. And unless there is a trusted bond that you have to the source of things which are happening, there is enough and more manipulation that is happening all over the place. There are forces called deep states, etc., which are trying to throw and uproot governments. There are corporates which are manipulating consumer information all over the place. There are communities which are using information all over the place to create terrorism and bloodshed and what not. Professionals are using misinformation to create fear so that they can increase their services. And I'd just like to stop at that, otherwise becomes a disaster accounting. So information abundance, despite and with a lot of truth erosion. And lastly, all of this instability and fragmentation is leading to a security buildup across the world and creating even more insecurity. The more security that we have today, we have better weapons, better technology, better surveillance, but the insecurity is only at higher and higher levels with every single passing day. So, those were your 5 pillars of the paradox: unprecedented progress alongside rising instability, hyperconnectivity with deep fragmentation, economic growth with widening inequality, information abundance with truth erosion, and security buildup creating more insecurity. Hope the paradox angle is very, very clear in your head, in your mind. So, on one side, we see prosperity, and on the other side, we see suffering. Why is this a manufactured reality, the world that we are living in today? Uh, the most important point there being, there are many powerful people today, which are far fewer than the others, who are controlling the narrative and shaping the perception of truth. Whether this is about countries, whether this is about economies, whether this is about certain communities, the narrative is being shaped by few people who are using it to manipulate others through the perception of truth. That's why it's a manufactured reality. Second, there is a lot of selective information amplification. So, social media channels, etc., have been criticized a lot for supporting certain kind of activism. If you see, there was so much of prevalence of many activist forms in the which people are now fighting against and trying to conquer. Why? Because all of that selective information was pushed up, whether it was the riots which were created around Black Lives Matters, or it was certain aspects of the LGBTQ movement, or movements around education, or movements around political change. In the last 15, 20 years, selective information application has been used as a weapon and to suppress communities, and it is only getting worse and worse today. In the recent Iran war, if you were following, there were so many channels that came up and projected that US is going to lose very badly. This is going to happen, that is going to happen. We are actually seeing some of that actually played out in the true sense. So much of this information amplification is also showing results. And added to that, the crisis framing that much of the selective information is doing is also justifying some other people to consolidate their power. So aggression is increasing in this world because of that selective information amplification. So people are taking positions, law enforcement people are taking positions, communities are taking positions, resistance movements are taking position, and increasingly we are headed towards not just global wars, but multiple mini wars that are happening all over the place. And in that frame, the fourth thing that we see is media, state, and corporate agenda seems to be aligned in many ways. There are many corporates which seem to be making a lot of money out of this suffering, whether it is weapons companies or technology companies or now AI companies, and you name it, so many others. So there are many who are using the confusion in the world today, all this narrative control, all the selective information, all the crisis framing to their advantage to perk up their business, their crisis oriented earnings. And last but not least, this is creating fear cycles. And those fear cycles, on one hand, are driving compliance and getting people together, and they're becoming a bigger force. And on the other side, it is creating division, and it is creating a whole host of resistance. So the response that we are having to the crisis of the world today itself is creating even more crisis. There is very little pacification, there is very little silencing, there is very little placation, there is very little solving, there is very little peace that is being looked at. It is aggression versus aggression versus aggression. That's the world that we are living in. And that's why this is becoming a manufactured reality because of these 5 points. Narrative control shaping perception of truth, selective information amplification and suppression, crisis framing to justify power consolidation, media, state, and corporate agenda alignment, and fear cycles creating compliance and divisions. Well, as if the paradox and the manufactured reality wasn't sufficient. If you see in all of this, there is an absolute collapse of Dharma. The human life was never meant to be as parasitic as it has become today. We are the worst parasites that ever existed on earth. We are destroying earth, we are destroying its resources, we are destroying each other. We are also at this point in time destroying almost all of the progress that we have made in the last 20, 30 years. All it takes is a few reckless moves, a few reckless wars, and all the progress that we have made in terms of infrastructure, technology, lifestyle, all of that across much of the world will turn down to dust. Our lifestyles, our knowledge, our progress will turn down to dust because of this collapse of Dharma. So what's happening there? Power, and power being centered in the hands of some people who are using it irresponsibly. So power without restraint or responsibility, globally prevalent. And you will see that the same people who are telling other countries to exercise restraint, they are going out and waging wars. The US's manipulative methods have been called out in the recent times when their allies did not support them. But that's just one example of it. There are so many dictators, so many communities. Look at Africa today. Africa is everybody's, plundering ground. Everyone goes in and plunders that whole continent. There's not a single country which has been prosperous, peaceful, and where people, natives especially, have been allowed to survive. Why? Because it's a resource-rich continent which has been plundered. Everyone, every consumer who consumes something from Africa is responsible, which is almost all of us. Today, ends are justifying means at scale, whether it is, like I said, the resources that are coming from Africa, or the way we are using water, or the crop cycles that we have, or the way we are butchering animals or keeping them to be butchered, or forming alliances or dissolving alliances whenever it's convenient to us. Enough and more examples out there. So for almost everyone, ends are justifying the means at scale, and that's a very dangerous erosion of Dharma. The erosion of truth, because of all the information mismanagement and the information being forced down the way it is, all that erosion of truth has now become a guiding principle for many people. So for people, it is you control information, you control people. Today, it's become very easy to control people. Just control the version of truth that you're telling people. And if that was not enough, the fourth pillar, which is duty, which is replaced now by self-interest and control. And the bigger and more powerful your group is, the more you will stand for your self-interest and control. And that then makes everybody else the victim. So 2008, we saw several bubbles burst where much of the financial irresponsibility and financial self-interest and control had collapsed. But today, it is not just financial. Today, we see corporate profits. Today, we see political movements. We see social movements. We see land interests. We see control on resources. So pretty much everywhere there are self-interest and control, and all of that bubble is going to burst sometime soon. And lastly, in all of this, everyone living in this world today has some part or the other to play, either in somewhere in that food chain. So collective dharma and collective karma is catching up with us in almost all of action. That's where the collapse of dharma lies. So power without restraint and responsibility, ends justifying means at scale, erosion of truth as a guiding principle, duty being replaced by self-interest and control, and lastly, karma catching up, collective karma catching up with our actions. That's the world that we are living in. So the global crisis today, it is a paradox, it is a manufactured reality, and it is a collapse of dharma. So what do individuals do? What do families do in a situation like this? Because many of you at this point in time also realize that the powers to be, the powers who are at the center of all of this, are much bigger powers, and most of us will not be able to shake it in 1 or 2 days. All of us across the world have to possibly unite to change this world, which is highly unlikely with the kind of division that we have in this world. Will people stand up for dharma? Doesn't look like there is one common definition of dharma at this point in time. Will people stand up and take reality for it is and break the illusions? Highly likely not, because everybody's version of reality is too different today. And will people embrace the positive side of the paradox and destroy the negative side of the paradox? Highly unlikely. So what should we do? I have 3 clear recommendations for you, your family, and your community. Number 1, whichever way this world is going to shape out to be in the next 8 to 10 years, there is drastic change coming our way, and that's very clear. Whether it is strategists who do this or from a Jyotish perspective, we look at this, the world is about to change. The world that we've lived in, the world the way it has been, the world that will not be the world that it is going to be. There are people who are today forcing AI down the throat of every single thing and eating up hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs without really thinking that they are taking away people's livelihood and driving recession towards us faster than anything else. And so many other trends, whether it is the way chemicals are being used to grow food, or whether it's chemicals replacing nutrition, and all the trends out there. So 3 things to do. Number 1, you as an individual and you as your family and your community, what can you do? You can scale back your future dependence on things. Now, future dependence on what? In the next 5 to 20 years, which the world is going to be a lot more volatile. So your dependence on a single career or a single skill or a single employer, a single market, a single form of governance or single technology or a certain geography, that's something that you need to reconsider. Many of us have moved away from our roots, from our rural roots, from our smaller town roots into metros. You might want to restart that connection that you had with your roots, to go back and see how can you cut down the dependence on the modern world. So scale back your future dependence, strengthen your health, strengthen your skills, strengthen your relationships, especially your survival skills and your fundamental family relationships. Strengthen your savings, learn to earn in multiple other ways as compared to just the corporate careers. Build adaptability and increase your certainty of how you will manage your life, and invest in your own resilience and your family's resilience as compared to a lot of the luxuries that all of you are accumulating and amassing out there. It doesn't take too much to take away all the glory that cities offer us. It's merely just one small destructive action of some country, some event, some terrorist group away. Be wary of this. So scale back your future dependence. Prepare for a future that you are not expecting today. Prepare for a future that you cannot predict. And the way you do that is to understand what are those essences of human life that will allow you to be resilient when the world shakes up. The second thing, build your life around what will not change, what does not change. What does not change? Family and trusted relationships. Your own character and reputation being important. Your skills being useful. Your local community contributing to each other and economy. Your physical and mental health helping you survive. Your meaningful work which helps you stay abreast and earn and provide for your family. And your spiritual grounding which keeps you sane. These are the things which are not going to change no matter how much AI comes, no matter what comes in this world. These things will not change. So invest in all of them. Invest in your family and trusted relationship. Invest in your career. invest in your character and your reputation. Invest in good skills, especially survival skills. Invest in your local community and community connections. Invest in your own physical, mental health, doing meaningful work, and develop yourself and your spiritual intelligence. In the coming times, spiritual intelligence is going to be exceptionally crucial for you to survive and stay sane. Anchor your life in permanent principles, not the temporary conditions of the modern life. If you were to step back and dare to take a truthful look at life, you will realize that most of the modern life is built on temporary conditions, not on permanent principles. Take a moment to assess your life and transfer and take your focus onto more permanent principles. The third recommendation that I have, and this is very, very important, each one of us and our families need to become harder to manipulate. We need to understand that this whole piece and what aspect of the paradox is troubling us, what part of the manufactured reality is troubling us, what part of the collapse of Dharma is attacking us. And in that space, we need to understand what is important for our and our families' survival. And then when you hear things, when all the information reaches you, when you see things happen in the world today, you need to consume a lot less of the outrage and activism that is being pushed onto us today. 99% of that is fake and funded and create and supposed to create unrest in a certain country, in a certain community. It is not true what is the outrage out there. And some people are making a lot of money out of it. So consume a lot less of the outrage. Verify before you believe. You really go down and not just verify the event, but also the action that is being taken against the event. Is that the only way to respond? So you need to learn to separate facts from narratives and avoid any sort of emotional contagion. That the frenzy that we have today is that I also want to be a part of this. I also want to be putting a voice out there. Remember, just because somebody has a voice, it may not be worth speaking. In fact, 99% of what is the voice out there today is really not worth speaking. It's not helping humankind. It is not even paying attention to the most pressing need. Like if you see right now, there's hardly any action that is happening on climate and climate change. AI is one of the biggest destroyers of water, creating so much of pollution, creating so much of energy use and heat and carbon footprint. But none of us want to pay attention. Why? Because it's the next big thing. So that's how bad our emotional focus is at this point in time. We also need to learn to sit down with all uncertainties and make sure that all the thinking that we have outsourced to external powers, we take that away. So all in all, become harder to manipulate. The strongest person in the coming 10, 15 years is not going to be the one who knows the most. It's the one who's going to be able to think the most peacefully and the clearest to manage the situation that they are in. That's the world that we are living in. So work on your foundations, anchor yourself in Dharma, and guard your discernment and your discretion. You have to have resilience, you have to have stability, you have to have clarity. That's the only way you are going to be able to survive in a crisis that is a paradox, a manufactured reality, and a loss of Dharma. I will see you very soon with another concept like this. Till then, thank you and take care of yourself.